Alrighty, so we have SS, top picks, top bans. You know, usually banned, usually picked. If not, you need to pick it for sure. S tier are the ones that get through a lot consistently, you know, super valuable to every team. A tier, very good picks that complement a team or fill standard roles. So, you know, your core of the game should be A tier, especially with how balanced the gods are. B plus are your average picks, picked to fill in roles needed or to specifically counter picks from the enemy team. Counter picks, situational, that's B plus. C tier is just trash. They're just bad picks. They aren't performing in the meta. I don't know why you're playing them. That type of shit. Yes, sir, we can. So we got Achilles. Achilles is kind of just average right now. He's not bad. He's not killing it in the solo lane. He isn't taking over the game the way he has been for a long time, but I don't think Achilles will ever be actually bad. Agni, A tier as well. I think Agni's a slightly underrated. I think once you get through the first 3 levels, the god is god tier. Just a beast god that does what you need him to do. But people really don't like messing up in the early game, and they don't want to risk it, so Agni stays in A tier. AMC hasn't moved. He's been kind of A tier, pretty silent in the overall meta. I think it's just going to be that way. He gets buffs, and he's OP, and then they nerf him, and he goes back to just chilling. Opwash. I'll put Opwash B+, but I think Opwash might be the most underrated god in Smite. I think he just does well in almost every team comp. I think with how tanky you can actually build in the mid lane without building defensive items is kind of nuts because you're going staff. You're just getting off a lot of raw damage. Your sustain is there because you can heal yourself with your creeps. I literally think this is the most underrated god in the game. If it was purely based off of me and seeing it in my games, I'd probably put him at A and want him up higher after I played him more. But I'll put him at B+ for you guys so you aren't all playing him and getting clapped. Just because he is a positioning kind of centered god. Ama's really good. I'm putting Ama in S tier. Ama just does everything. You get she W keys. And W keying in any ranked or casual game is more likely to get you a win than sitting back and playing around your teammates or the enemy team. She has good laning phase. People go Golden Blade and she just kind of free farms. Solid pick. Honor, another average ADC. When I say average, I don't mean bad. I mean pretty much can be played all the time and has a lot of good counter picks, but can be played around and is in a top pick. Anubis, hyper situational, because if you don't build a team around keeping Anubis alive, the enemy team will build anti-heal and you'll die. Ao Kuang, A tier, just exists. He got better with the change to Bancrofts, but it hasn't really impacted his stance on the tier list yet. Afro, I'm going to say situational, but I kind of think she's bad. I'm like heavy in between where you could definitely play her and fill some weird situational comp, but I think she's kind of just bad and she'll get you more losses than wins. Apollo, falling off a little bit since they nerfed the ult, but still strong, still useful, not a bad god. Arachne, I'm going to put in an A tier. Arachne farms in low-end ranked and casual. Conquest always has, probably always will. Remember, this tier list is based around casuals and ranked with a little bit of what we see from the pro players. Ares, another average support. Decent laning phase, decent team fights. Not really one-shotting and soloing as easily now since they buffed everyone's health and defense. So Ares isn't as scary, still useful. Artemis, hyper situational. Too many counter picks, no true mobility, easy to dive onto. Anyone running the new Magi's is pretty much going to clap your cheeks. Artemis is not the move. Like, Artemis used to have a lot of value in killing solo laners with the ult trap combo, and because late game you shred them, that doesn't happen as much because a lot of people have Magi's or the supports have Magi's, which means everyone who dives has Magi's, and Artemis can't lock you down easily. Artio, I'm putting Artio into B+. I think Artio's mana usage and really having no good one position is a problem. In the solo lane, you can get away with it, but it's not that nuts. It's actually not that bad to play around. Everyone's tankier. Artio's not as annoying. There's a lot of shred in the game. Artio requires sitting in a team fight and rotating through your abilities 50 times. Anyone with consistent damage is going to match that. Late game, you're going to struggle. Athena, I still think Athena is just like the core support to play when you're in low-end ranked and casuals. Plays for you. You don't have to be good at rotating. All you have to do is taunt. You do not have to do damage. Your goal is taunting. That's it. And as long as you learn how to do that, you're doing the exact job your team needs to do from the support role. Atlas, I think Atlas is the best support god in the game. Easily the most annoying with the highest damage output. Awilix is great. Very aggressive. Very good damage all throughout the game. A little bit higher on the skill and positioning side than some assassins, so that's why she's on the A tier. Baba Yaga, I think Baba's probably, I don't know if I'd put Baba in S tier. I kind of want to. I think Baba's better than Agni and safer and more consistent. And something that you should probably be playing in the mid lane. I'm going to put Baba here for right now. I think Baba is just hyper good. We're in a stacking meta. We've been in a stacking meta. It's probably going to continue through the end of the year. Baba stacks are free. So GG. Bacchus, putting situational for Bacchus. Kind of a weaker laning phase, not terrible. We're out of that whole duo lane is pop fucking frenzy and clear the wave and kill each other type of thing. That's not happening as much. So Bacchus isn't really going to excel in that lane. And that's where he's going to be. I don't know what I do. Bacchusura. Low end, situational. Okay pick. You're pretty much a farm whore who only fights when the enemy team overcommits. I wouldn't put him in horrible. I just don't think he's that consistently useful. I think Baron is a solid pick for solo, for mid, and for supports. Even with all the nerfs and changes that he goes through, I don't think it matters. I think he's a spammable god that doesn't need crazy positioning, because as long as you're not overcommitted, you're always in a good position. Bastet's kind of fallen off a bit. I'll throw her into A tier. I just think her damage output got nerfed enough that she isn't as noticeable in the game. Bellona, A tier. Solid solo laner. Wouldn't play it in the jungle. Just good for sitting on carries and kind of just being there and existing. And up-downing with the ultimate. Kabrakan, I think Kabrakan, way better than he was. Still not god tier. A lot of the items got buffed. Your clear potential is nuts with the new starter additional damage. So him in the soul lane is solid. I wouldn't play him too much in support. Kind of meh. And then in the jungle, also kind of meh because there's so much more to pick and do than Kabrakan. Way more to do. I don't want to throw in an A+ because I think the idea of like Baba Yaga should be a priority pick in the mid lane. If Baba's getting through, we're going to talk about some of the other ones, but like Baba getting through is very valuable, where Agni getting through is kind of like, if that's the god you want to play, go for it. It's not bad, but it's not setting your team up to have the best pick there is. Camazotz saw some nerfs, still doing okay, but not doing great. I'd rather have him in the jungle than any position. Cerberus, meh, as anything but support. I guess he might come back in a solo at some point. I haven't seen a lot of it. More of a support player, god, good in the anti-heal, but nothing crazy. Almost borderline counter pick, but you can pick him all the time. CERN, I think CERN is bad. I do not think there's anything good about CERN in general. You have a low mobility hunter that has no hard CC outside of the ultimate, which is easy to avoid. You do have the additional damage coming out of your one, but you don't have a true steroid, and that's going to leave me with CERN down here. Chalk, I still think Chalk is horrendous. Doesn't do anything, just dies. They've buffed him a million times, he still just dies. Chunga, still think Chunga is very situational. If you don't have a team comp and a play style built around collapsing on top of your Chunga and all the fighting being done there over the extended period of time, it's going to be bad. Charybdis, I think, is an S tier ADC because you're able to avoid all damage in the game that you don't want to get hit by. Chernabog, saw some play for a while, slightly fallen off a bit. The global ult is just hyper valuable still. Chiron, very good ability hunter, but not necessary in the current meta. Chronos, situational, the weakest of all of the mage hunters by far, just how it's been. I don't even really know why he performs so much differently than Sol and Oleron. Mainly Oleron in general, but like the fact that you have an mobile Oleron who can kind of fight on himself well versus a Chronos who gets a free reset being worse is just weird. Kleena, one of the best pure damage assassins in the game, still very good, can control a game, just won't have the CC you need to be the one starting fights. Chalk S tier? No. Cthulhu getting played a lot more. Better in the solo lane than anywhere else. Kind of just exists. Your laning phase is 1,000 times better, and it's really hard to kill a Cthulhu. That's all it comes down to. Then in the late game, you die. Kakulin falling off a bit. A little bit more situational from the warrior standpoint in that lane, just not doing as much at all. Everyone got tankier. Him being a little bit tankier hasn't impacted his gameplay, which sucks for him. Cupid. Last pick potential from the ADC role. Would never early pick Cupid. Gods like Charybdis can fully counter the Cupid. Honor can fully counter the Cupid. There's a lot that can play around Cupid. If you late pick Cupid and you pick it for the cripple because they have a lot of movement or they don't have a hunter that fully counters you, solid pick, so situational position. Dodgy, still probably the, what's the word? Like the standard for solid jungling. It used to be Hun Bats for a long time because of his ultimate. Dodgy has way more burst, way quicker damage, better mobility, damage reduction, and ultimate makes it so you take no damage. It can burn beads. Magi's kind of slaughters Dodgy in the late game team fights unless you have teammates that can engage, but her burst is so high that it makes up for that. You don't need to rely on the ultimate. Danza, decent hunter, nothing crazy going on there. Disco, I think Disco is probably the worst mage in the game because her early mid game is trash, and anyone with a brain can kind of avoid most of her damage. If the enemy team is playing into the Disco, she'll be fine, but it requires the enemy team to literally just be stupid. Erlang Shen, I think Erlang Shen is bad. We're talking about casuals and ranked. At SPL level, people still play it. The fact that it lost the knockup pretty much makes you worthless in most of your matches as soon as people have anti-heal. ESET, doing really well as a support. Wouldn't play it anywhere else. If you are a mage player, Disco is literally high priority in the SPL. That's great. This is casuals and ranked. That's insane. Yeah. Tried to look around to see where the fuck the SPL was, but I remember we couldn't find it because it's not what we were talking about. ESET, solid support, wouldn't play it anywhere else. Fafnir, solid support, just same shit, jumps in, pops ult, buffs the team, never going to be a downside to that. Isn't really carrying or doing much from that support role right now. Yeah, so I'll explain it. Disco at an SPL level, it's been this way since the beginning of time. You pick Disco to buff your teammates. You pick Disco, so whatever teammate, usually the solo lane for the early mid and usually the ADC for the late game, has that advantage over everyone else in the game. In terms of ranked and casuals, Disco has a terrible rotation. Disco has really average clear in the early and mid game, so you're not going to be rotating as fast as anyone else that's, clearing in the mid lane. And then your team fight potential relies heavily around CDR and being able to, combo abilities in that early and mid game. In the late game, if you're hitting combos, that's going to be in team fights, solid, but you have to be close range, which means you need the enemy team walking at you. So that is why Disco is there. You could say situational, but there's no situation where I'm like, here's a good Disco pick. That doesn't happen. Fafnir, Fenrir with the Magi's as a jungler, as a support, potential. Not great, not really situational. You can kind of grab it, just know you're building hybrid and you're not going to be the hard carry. Solid pick though, no real downside as long as your early game doesn't go poorly. Freya, I think Freya just in casual and ranks carries every game. If you can hit mid game and you do build correctly, I've seen so many people playing Freya not building hastened ring. Rush hasten ring, get that online, or rush Bancrofts and then get hasten online. Get it online your first 2 items, and you will dumpster anyone as long as you know how to move around while auto attacking on Freya. Give yourself some time, get used to it. You will carry every game. Ganesh, situational, maybe not situational, average. His silence is big value. If he's being aggressive and the team is following up, he will just run through a game. If it's kind of a slow paced game, you might struggle a little bit on Ganesh. Geb, borderline the Athena, comparison. Super simple. Level your shield, throw your shields, engage whenever your team needs it, play around your teammates for peel. Very simple play style because you have that shield. Hard to mess up being a shield user. Gilgamesh, I still think Gilgamesh is solid. He's being played a lot less, but he kind of still does everything he did before, just a little bit less damage. I'm like in between him being an S tier, W key, you can pick him in the jungle and just run it down, and then A tier. I think he's better than a Wheelix, better than Quang, so I'll probably put him in S tier. And I think if he's through and you're just trying to win games, he's a god you should have in your like top picks. Guan Yu is trash. Guan Yu does nothing. You can interrupt his 3. His ultimate isn't pumping out enough damage fast enough, and his heal is virtually worthless because everyone will have anti-heal, and then if anyone has an Ankh, you're killing your teammates. Hachi, the average ADC of all time. Very safe, very good at escaping, very good at playing around the fact that you have a CC immune ult, which will take you halfway down your lane, so your laning phase tends to be pretty strong. Plus, you have good poke. Hades, saw some buffs. Doing better. I don't think Hades is great. I think Hades is past the situational pick, where you can only play him in some cases. You have to be a good Hades player, though. Hebo, situational as hell. There's way too many counter picks. Your damage has been reduced. The items aren't making Hebo insane. A lot of people are living longer because of the higher HP and the higher defense, which makes Hebo a little bit scary to pick in case you don't get those big ult kills that you need. Heimdall. I think Heimdall is the safest ADC in the game. Learn how to use your 3. I've said this a million times. Anytime we talk about Heimdall. Great self-peel, great turn potential, solid CC from a god, a beads burner, can take a front line out of your face for free, and then that infinite movement ability is just nuts. Hell is trash. Fully countered by 90% of the items in the game. Needs to be close range, dies instantly. Hera's doing better for sure. Just the way it is. You're a little bit tankier. She's got the shield. She survives longer. She's able to get her ult off a little bit more. And she just plays around the ult. So she's doing solid. Hercules, not doing that good. I haven't seen Hercules be meta in a hot minute. Situational. You'll find sometimes where that Hercules just pops into what you're playing against. It's going to be rare. Horus, average support. Wouldn't play him anywhere else. Don't think he's a jungler. Ho Yi has decent matchups in the ADC role. Not as strong as he was, but still a good pick. For casuals and ranked, he has lower clear. So I would not spend a lot of time playing Ho Yi unless you're comfortable with knowing when to, chill on your clear and play back versus play up. Usually want to have a support player that knows the information as well. Hun Bats, still doing fine. Big team fight ultimate, not a bad pick. Clear used to be Hun Bats' upside and why he was a little bit better than a lot of these other junglers. Golden Blade is meta, so jungle clear is not a thing you bring up anymore. And a lot of other characters had their clear buffed over the last couple months. Is Anami pretty much the go-to for every low-ranked ADC player in the game because you get free clear. You don't have to be good. You don't have to be knowledgeable. You get free clear. That's something to play around. That's a good learning and beginning point for those players. As you go up, you'll realize you have counter picks. Ho Yi will stomp on you. Some of these matchups will not go in your favor, but having that clear will carry you through the early game if that's what you're looking for. Janice is almost situational because bad players play Janice. You have to be a good Janice player. And that's not, I can hit my two. Nobody fucking asked. You need to know when to use your portals. You need to know how to use your portals. You need to know how to move your teammates around with your portals. You need to know how to use your ultimate and not think it's just a damage dealing ultimate. Once you can process those things and combine them together, you'll be a decent Janice player. Most people don't do that. It's just one of those gods that people still struggle at playing correctly, usually play extremely poorly on Janice. Jingwei, hyper safe. Crit is still decent in the meta. There's no downside really to it, even though they added a new anti-crit item. It's not being picked up. So Jingwei is fine. Yorm, situational because you're pretty much leaving your team out to dry as soon as you ultimate. And that is a scary thing for team comps. You need to fully control your lane. Probably going to play in the solo lane. Do not take it in the support role for any chance of making that work. Kali. I think Kali is the best jungler in the game next to Nemesis. W key god. I'm pretty sure she just got nerfed too, but it doesn't matter. It's unnoticeable. You're able to rush into the items so quickly. You have Golden Blade clear online as well. And the farm is just there for you to get online earlier than you ever were before. So Kali's going to be a top pick. Kepri, average. I keep saying situational. There's a situational aspect to the ult. You need to have a team that can engage around you, but you don't have to build the whole team comp around that. Usually you have that automatically as long as your solo laner is playing a real solo laner. So with that being said, Kepri kind of can play from range and then look for the fat ultimates and just continue the fight and keep your teammates alive fairly easily. King Arthur, I think King Arthur is the best solo laner in the game for casuals and ranked. Knockup immunity is super OP. Always has been, always will be. He has the highest just pure damage output. He's one of the hardest to kill gods in the game. And it is very difficult for a ranked or casual team to coordinate CCing and killing Arthur in a team fight. It doesn't happen very often. And most people don't want to beat a King Arthur ult, so they end up losing half their health just from a King Arthur ult. So as long as you understand your targeting and how to move around and use your abilities on Arthur, you'll stomp. And really, that's probably the worst god in the game to play against right now overall. Kukulkan, situational because it's a safe clearing god for the early and mid game, but in the late game you get dove way too easily. Kumba, pretty trash, even through the buffs. Just doesn't do enough. The mez is not enough to make him valuable. The root has some value. He's damage still being lower from years ago when he was nerfed, kind of makes him trash. Kuzimbo, same situation. Even with full defense and your reflective shield, you die quickly. You don't have a lot of CC. You're single target for the most part, not the move. Lancelot, maybe the best god in the game right now. Solo lane, full defense, god tier. Jungle, full damage, solid pick, not bad at all. Can be locked down and controlled. Hard CC stun is the counter to Lancelot, but it really doesn't matter. It's not going to change anything. Once he's tanky in late game, it's very frustrating to deal with him. His base damage is insanely high. He's an assassin, but he's actually a warrior, and Hyra's just lying to us. Loki, average, not doing bad, not doing great. Still countered by a lot of the top junglers because of Arondites. Medusa, falling off heavily down here in the situational area because you get dove and you die and your clear is not that nuts anymore after the nerfs. Mercury, borderline S tier. They've nerfed crit a little bit indirectly to nerf the hunters, which affected Mercury a little bit. He's fallen off slightly. They upped the cost of Golden Blade and nerfed Golden Blade a little bit, which brought him down a little bit. I'd say if you're comfortable with the Mercury playstyle, if you're very comfortable, maybe S tier, but overall A tier. Merlin, too easy to dive with the current gods that are meta, A tier. Morgan Le Fay's fallen off a bit. Her clear and spam is not as noticeable. She's still good, but not bad. She's still good, but not bad. She's still good, but not great. Mulan falling off heavily, almost down here into B+ for me. I know in casuals and ranked, she has like a bigger peak than in higher end, where like people struggle and they think she's beast because she has a sustain. If you are building anti-heal into her, she's very, very, very bad. She does not continue the damage output or the sustain with any amount of anti-heal in the game. Naja, I hate Naja, but I think with Magi's, Naja is now an A tier pick. Not bad, really good engagement god if that's what you're looking for. Neith, ult spammer. If you're looking for a damage build hunter and you want to be impacting the game from that duo lane and you're not comfortable with 1v1ing and fighting and rotating, Neith is the go-to. Nemesis, the best jungler in the game. Ultimate, strong. Builds all work on Nemesis. You can 1v1 anyone you want. You can go into fights and mess around and do kind of whatever you want. You have a huge safety factor with that shield. You have high mobility, and just that pure 1v1 insta-kill potential is never going to go away even after the nerfs. Nike, trash. Has been trash for a while. Nox, way better than the previous years. She can play in support. She can kind of play in mid. Would mainly take her into support. You just spam and you're annoying. You want to burn beads on cooldown, and then once beads are burnt, you want to try to either continue the beads burning onto the people around that person, or you want to target out that person and have your team dive them, so make sure you're communicating. Nua, ult spam, great outside of that. She's decent self-peel, nothing else special. Fairly safe god, though, because you can stand under the tower and clear. Odin, very situational. You're picking Odin late game when they have mass healing or they have low mobility, because it's going to force the enemy team to build. What's the active now? What active did they build it on? They added it to? Whatever the active is that lets you walk through walls. They put it onto like Ankh or something. Oh, they put it on Shell. So they put it on a good active, which is solid, but it's going to force them to upgrade that early. So you want to exploit that if you do decide to play Odin. Makes it very situational. Olorun, probably the best all-around carry right now. You aren't really playing it in the mid. You can. It's not a bad pick for mid lane. It's just an amazing hunter. It's one of the best ADC gods for you to play right now. The mage magic damage is unstoppable. The ultimate, similar to the way Yamoja is, that massive ultimate in team fights easily wins you team fights without actually being a high skill ultimate. So that makes Olorun just top tier. Osiris, average, doing decent. They've nerfed the Golden Blade on a couple of the items that people were really forcing, like Stone Cutting Sword and all that stuff. Wouldn't play it in the jungle at all, maybe in the solo lane. Pele, I actually just did a video on Pele today. Struggles in the late game. With the full commitment aspect of Pele's kit, once you're in, you're in. There's no getting out. And the amount of damage that's coming out, as well as how tanky some of these targets are, as long as people know it will avoid your knockup, they're going to turn and kill you. If you're getting that knockup off, if they're just very immobile gods that can't do anything about it, Pele's solid. Persephone, heavy falling off. I don't think I've seen a Persephone played like at all in the past 3 or 4 months. Not once. I'm trying to think of any time I saw Persephone. I feel like she's to the point where she's an ult bot, where people play her to have that ult lockdown, which has been nerfed many times. And outside of that, people just struggle and they dive her way too easily. Poseidon, I'd probably put Poseidon up here into like a top pick, because it's giving you heavy pressure in the mid lane, and the cooldown you're pulling out and the movement you're pulling out right now and the rotation potential allows you to control games from that mid lane, and even can throw Poseidon in the jungle. Ra, just way too easy to dive and play around. Ra's a little bit tankier with that 3 being buffed a while ago, but just Ankh fully counters it, and you are not moving on Ra if people want to kill you. Raijin, trash. I think Raijin's garbage. I think Raijin doesn't clear fast enough. I don't think Raijin has the clear speed and rotation speed to combat a lot of these other mages that are being played. And I think Raijin's team fight is trash because you're just diving on top of them. If the Raijin is on a team that is fully W-keying and the enemy team is taking it and they're not counter jumping on you, you'll have a fine game, but that's going to be very rare. Rama, standard safe hunter that can get into the dive and be a part of the dive without actually being in there. Ratatasker, very situational. People are playing him more now than ever. I think he got played in the SPL this weekend. He's trash. He's complete trash. He works at an SPL level so much better because as soon as you're landing that ult, the whole enemy team is going to be playing around it, right? Oh, rats in the air, rats in the air, rats in the air. The teammates at an SPL level and the communication is going to allow a full dive as soon as that rat touches the ground and knocks somebody up. At a ranked and a casual level, that's not happening. You're going to engage. The team is going to jump on you. Then your team's going to try to follow up. And it's not going to be as aggressive. And you do not have the damage output to be the only one diving into the backline. Ravana, I still think Ravana is a great pick. I think he's probably the safest jungle pick in the game now. I think he plays heavily like a warrior with the shield buffs they've given him. And your potential of just running at people and never being out of position is so high for casuals and ranked that it's almost no downside to picking Ravana. There isn't much that counters it. There isn't much really that's just going to kill it straight up. There are some matchups like Nemesis that'll struggle a little bit if you're having 1v1s, but outside of that, solid god. Scylla, still doing Scylla things. I'm confused. What is happening? Can someone just time out the Piccolo dude and then ban him if he ever says anything like that again? Serket, way too high skill level. They're trying to bring her back into the assassin role by upping her base damage. It's not doing it. She's solid, but counterpicked and counterplayed way too easily by just diving her whenever you try to go in the backline. So Serket goes in on a mage or a hunter. Everyone collapses. Serket dies before she gets off her kit. Set, better in ranked than at a competitive level. The W key potential is there. People don't like to build anti-heal around Set. You do take less damage, but you are always going to be over diving because your team will not full commit past that front line. So you're always going to be alone. You have to pay attention to builds, and you really need to let your team start fights before you engage. Shiva falling off heavily. I think Shiva is situational. I don't know any time I really want a Shiva on my team. I don't think Shiva's bad. I think Shiva has some good matchups. I'd only play it in the solo lane. I wouldn't take it in the jungle right now. And you need to somehow win that solo lane. It can't be a neutral solo lane. Scotty, situational. Too easy to dive. Not enough damage coming out. Sobek, average support. I mean, the plucks are still valuable. The kit is still super valuable, but it's not carrying any games. Soul, S tier. Just below Olorun. Like having Soul in the game. She does everything. She pushes. She team fights well. She controls the lane very easily. She has sustain built into her kit. She shreds through objectives early in the game. No downside to picking Soul. As long as you understand to use your 3 when you need to and not when you just want to be aggressive. Sun Wukong, average pick. Same old Sun Wukong. Heavy damage dealer from that solo lane role, but nowhere near as valuable as having a very tanky solo lane in these team fights. Susano. I think Susano is just below Ravana in terms of jungle and ability jungle play. Best team fight all out of the assassin tree by far. No, people aren't going to want to beads it. It can hit 2 to 3 people without you really attempting to have it hit 2 to 3 people. The god can solo somebody without them touching the ground. You have to be able to auto attack cancel though, which is where a lot of people struggle with Susano. Sylvanas doing a little bit better in the meta. The sustain has a little bit more value right now. People don't like to build anti-heal into Sylvanas because it's such a small heal that's over time. The ultimate though is really the big kicker. Having that huge knockup and damage coming out in every team fight is very valuable. Terra is also getting played a little bit more. Don't think it's enough. I think her control can be frustrating because it's so wide and controls so much of a large team fight, but I don't think she's insane. Thanatos, very situational. Need to have a strong early game in a meta where everyone's tanky, which makes Thanatos a little bit lower on the tier list for me. I do think if you're going for the full snowball, I'm going to carry. Thanatos is a solid pick. The Morrigan, still heavy aggression, but not that great into the overall meta. Not controlling the mid lane as well. People are matching clear because of the new starters. So Morrigan kind of just exists and plays around being able to swap into somebody in the game that is doing well. Not really valuable. Thor, I think Thor is doing better than before, but nothing nuts. I think his team fight is way better with the control he has in these longer team fights. So that's why you're seeing Thor do better overall, but not an insane pick. Have to be able to poke and be very, very aggressive without being out of position, which is where people struggle. Thoth has fallen off a bit. No longer tippy top because of the nerfs, but still doing great. Tiamat falling off a little bit. Once again, no longer at the top because of the nerfs, but still a solid team fight god, just not as much control as before. Tsukiyomi. I'm putting Tsukiyomi to B+ here. This is going to piss people off. I think because Tsukiyomi is a full commit god, similar to Pele, almost like Rat, you die way more often than you should because you don't have control over getting in and out of the team fight. Once you ult, you're in. And if your teammates don't follow up when you're in a ranked or a casual game where there's low communication, you're screwed. Tier. We saw Tier pop off today. He had a 4-man ult in the SPL and turned a team fight and won the game and won the set for them and knocked out one of the SPL teams from the tournament. Doesn't make him insane though. Solid pick. Really good lane control. But team fighting wise, Magi's and just positioning from the enemy team is going to make it hard for you to do your job. Ul, I think Ul is still great. Still one of the highest damage and poke and lane control gods from that ADC role you can have. So that's why I like Ul and I put him up there. I would pick him all day long. I think if you're very comfortable on the god, he's amazing. Vamana, situational. You need the enemy team to not build Ankh. That is the situation. Vamana will run through people with no Ankh. Vamana, if the enemy team has Ankh, you're fucked. I have people ask me why, but doesn't it just do this or that? Vamana does shield himself with his ult and he heals. When you upgrade Ankh, you take more. That person that heals, that is Ankhed, takes more damage. So a Vamana who is Ankhed, as well as their anti-heal items in the game, is not healing and is taking extra damage. That's just going to have you insta-die all day. It also removes your shield, whatever shield you have. So as soon as an Ankh goes off, the turn and kill potential and Vamana is nuts. Plus the top gods in the game kind of just rail Vamana. Kali will always 1v1 Vamana. Nemesis ult fully counters Vamana. There's just a lot to worry about when you are a Vamana. You want to be able to play that W key position, but you can't if the enemy team has any brain cells working. Vulcan, I think one of the more underrated mages, honestly, right now. The damage output is nuts. The low mobility overall sucks, but the movement you have with your passive plus your one is kind of cracked. Xbalanque, people are hyping up Xbalanque because of that new, what's the item? The no more, what is it? The projectile speed item that they added. They thought it was going to be, some people thought it would be nuts for the ultimate. It's trash. The item sucks. It hasn't made Xbalanque any better. Not a bad god. Have to be very aware of how to use the ult, which is why he's in A tier. Xing 10, I think Xing 10 is the easiest to play support overall. He's kind of always been that way, where he can exist and do his job. But the thing is, you can exist and do your job as an aggressive team fight starter and not be that skilled of a player, where a lot of other gods kind of play in between or play the true support where they want to keep their teammates alive. Xing 10 does the opposite. You just want to be annoying, and it's very easy to be annoying on him. That's why I put him here. Yamoja, A tier. People struggle at playing Yamoja. Yamoja's had a million nerfs, but with, I guess with the Bobble nerf, maybe even lower. With Bobble being in the game, making Yamoja kind of nuts was cool, but that got nerfed. So we're borderline in between these. We'll see how it plays out. Ymir, way too easy to die. No mobility, not a lot of control. If your stun doesn't hit or his beads, you get turned on and you die. Yuan, they say it's Yuan, right? It's Yu Huang, but they say it's Yuan. No G, you don't say it. It's on there, but you don't say it. Best mid in the game. Safest mid in the game. Best clear in the game. Easiest poke potential in the game. He literally went from... all right, here's another thing. I already know. Well, what made him better? He got buffed 4 different patches in a row. They buffed him 4 times in a row. If you are going... what's the gem? Conduit gem? Your 2-1 will full clear the wave like a level 2. Wait, what are you guys saying? I don't know what you guys are saying. So you need to have this god. If you're a mid laner, have this god in your pool. The 3 is so safe as long as you're staying around your towers. The ultimate, honestly, at first, it felt so rough and almost like a higher skill cap. I feel like the way it is now and the damage it does now is very valuable and very reliable. So you need to put them into your pick. You need me to do you a solid? No, you can smell my balls. Zeus, trash. Very situational. You have to get a lot of damage and you have to have the enemy team fighting on top of you while being able to survive, which means you need your team comp to be built around you. Zhong Kui, I think Zhong Kui's nuts. I think Zhong Kui in the mid lane and in the solo lane is absolutely insane. His 1-3 combo. Yes, 1-3. Your 1 is your dot that you throw out. Your 3 is your stun. Once you are full build as a mage, that will one-shot anybody, and nobody can react to it because nobody's going to pre-beats it. It will one-shot somebody 100-0. Every assassin that dives you, and plus it's peel, it's what you want to be doing anyway, it will one-shot them. On top of that, you have that massive ultimate. So if you are W keying in a team fight, you're doing damage without actually being good at the game. And then you have solid sustain, which is kind of hard to get away with right now. And with the extra tankiness, I think they buffed Zhong and made Zhong tankier when they made Hades tankier. Plus the change they did when they made everyone tankier. Zhong Kui is just kind of killing it in the early game. Plus the passive. You're just an extra tanky motherfucker for no reason. And that has to be valued. I think at the lower levels, it's even more valuable because people can't seem to get it together that he is tanky and needs to be, team killed rather than 1v1ing. And that is my tier list. That is my 9.7 tier list. I really don't see a lot of stuff where I change. I'm sure people will be mad about X thing. My Kalkin is insane. I go quadra stacking. No, you're trash. Really, a lot of the gods are in the same positions. Someone like Janus could be moved up, but it just doesn't get played correctly enough. Probably because people can't process using abilities in more than one way. Same thing goes with a lot of these other gods. Yeah, Cryptic, we'll get it up there. What move you want? He's literally the best mage in the game. He's so insanely good and so insanely easy to play. So when U1 first came out, his 1 did not do damage, and his ultimate really wasn't doing damage. Whether that was because of the numbers they had attached to it or the items have changed, and they have changed over time over the last couple of patches, plus the buffs. Now his 1 in the mid to late game can half health a squishy by itself, and it's very easy to land. Your 2 is a little bit easier to land, and it has hyper value out of the root, plus that clear potential in the early game is there. You full clear so early on that god, it's nuts. How would I build Gilgood Jungle? You could go full damage. You can go into a Golden Blade for clear, plus an Erendite, plus, you know, a Serrated and go for a higher damage build. Or you can go into a tankier build and build Magi's and build a Spirit Robe or build a magical defensive item and play around that, because his damage is still high and he's still very, very annoying. Is there a god I'd like to see reworked? I think they need to rework healing. I don't know how. Honestly, I literally don't even have an idea, but healing is so bad in the game in general. And the healing metas, when they are meta as is kind of boring. I think they need to rework healing. I don't know what they would do. I honestly don't even have a clue where to start for that, but that's what I would like to see. U1 is the character that flies up into the air with his 3, yes. Yep. Outside of that, I mean, I've wanted Naja to get a change, because the only reason Naja is doing better is because of Magi's. Oh, healing is just trash. It's so bad. It's so bad. I can tell you right now in the YouTube video, when this goes on YouTube, people are going to be mad about Shiva. People are going to be mad about Rat. People are going to be mad about Tsukiyomi. People are going to be mad about Chunga, Cupid, all from the B+ tier, and Artemis. They're going to be furious. And then in the S tier, they'll probably be like, Heimdall's not that good, even though Heimdall's God tier. They'll probably say, probably Baba's the other one they'll hit, even though Baba's nuts. It's just people suck at playing Baba Yaga. I get Tsukiyomi is an all-in god, but doesn't the range aspect of his abilities contract that? Counteract that? No. No, because if you're in range to use your abilities, someone's in range to poke you with their mage or hunter abilities. Serket is just a struggle bus god, man. She has the potential to be great, but even with the changes they make to her ult to make her tankier, it's not enough. You just die really, really fast when you're playing Serket. Is everyone banned Loki? My game's Loki doesn't get banned. It's probably a lower end thing, or people just don't want to deal with it. Izanami's banned in gold games because her clear is just something people can't deal with. Can Serket still be played in support? It can. She can. She's not as popular or as prioritized in support roles before. You think Baba's SS tier? I don't think she should be banned at all. I really don't see value in banning her. Freya SS case? I don't put Freya in SS because I don't think she should be banned. I think there are gods that can make it very difficult for her to just hard carry. And if she's being focused, she's not going to do her job as well, but that opens up her team to do more. Where I don't think she's fully shut down by these gods. Like Daji does very well in the Freya. Bastet does well in the Freya. Serket does well in the Freya. In terms of just raw matchups, you can have gods like Heimdall and other gods do very well against Freya. You can have Charybdis do well in the Freya. Medusa got nerfed. She fell off hard. Perfect team comp? I don't think there's such a thing. I think no matter what you're picking, there's always another set of gods that can play into it properly. Like literally always. There's Arachne A tier. Is Anubis S plus tier? Anubis is smell my balls tier. B plus. Shit. Yeah, Smite's a weird game because there's like, we have what, 100 and some odd gods, 110 something gods. And most of them at a competitive level are viable. They can be played and it's not that weird. Because of just the way the game is, the skill level of the game, and kind of the skill ceiling that's kind of shown itself, anything can be played, which means if you think you have a perfect comp with, Nemesis, Huan, King Arthur solo, a fucking Xingtan or something support, and then this other Emoji support, and then this other support, there's usually something that can play into each of those gods and make another team comp to play around it. Why would Cabrakan be S tier? Snowballing in this meta is extremely hard because of how tanky everyone is. It's just not as common. That's why Thanatos is B+. This is for casuals and ranked always. There's no point in making a tier list for anything else. No one else cares. Like nothing else matters. This is to help people know what to pick when they're playing their games. Scotty that low? Of course. She's an immobile hunter that doesn't do anything. She's not great at objective burn, not great at pushing. Her laning phase isn't insanely strong. She can't really play around a lot of these gods diving her. Kind of just gets clapped. But if you have a team comp where or the enemy team picks a comp that can't dive you, you're kind of chilling. Amma S tier? Why wouldn't Amma be S tier? Amaterasu is a god that controls the lane, is hyper safe, nearly impossible to gank, has one of the best engagement teamfight ultimates that will not let you take any damage. She also has the best objective clear from a solo lane role there is in the game. She literally makes her team do way more damage and burn objectives. In two ways, from her passive and from her one. Pele is nowhere near Susano level. Susano has heavy control that can't really be avoided and insane damage. Just insane burst damage. Where Pele, once you're committed, you're committed. You have low mobility. Susano doesn't have low mobility. And if Pele's knockup is avoided in one way or another, you are turned on and you are dead. You have to be able to get consistent knockups, which is not common in the meta. With Kali so strong, what makes Baka so low? They are completely different gods. Baka is I can AoE auto you and do damage, but I have no CC. I have a horrible engage, and I need a team to also be engaging with me, God. And it doesn't have a full health reset ultimate. Kali has a full health reset ultimate. Penetration maxed off of your passive. 30% pen just off of your passive. You have sustain outside of the reset. You have mobility and you have a stun. Whereas Baka has similar mobility and that's it. What's up, Zaf? Baka need a rework? I mean, he's just a lower end god. Like, he does extremely well at silver level where people just run away from auto attackers instead of turning on them, and that's where Baka kind of caps out. I'd be down for Baka to get a rework. His 2 is boring. His 3 is fairly boring, and his 1 is fairly boring. Trying to get better at the game. What's some advice? Pick one role and pick 1 to 3 gods in that role and only play those 3 gods until you start to get better. And do not add to your god pool until you're extremely comfortable and notice yourself getting better. Probably, like, you're talking to like 100, 200, 300 games with just those 3 gods being spammed over and over again. Jorm needs an ult rework. I don't know. I think his ult needs to stay as is. They have to find a way to make him a more valuable solo laner. He'll never be a support with that ultimate. So he just needs to be a valuable solo laner. Quan being disrespected, he's actually still pretty good at what? What is he good at? His 3 is interruptible. His damage is low. His healing is shit to begin with and can be completely countered and actually cause his team to die. And his ultimate is nowhere near as strong as almost every other ultimate in the game. They gotta find a way to make the game fun first. Nah, we're in I think we're in do or die for Smite, bro. I don't think the game is truly gonna die, but I think there will be no coming back if we don't hit February and have a new map and have a bunch of the issues like fixed, not addressed, actually already fixed. I think the next year, like we have like a 5 month, 6 month period where they need to get that shit done, or there's no coming back. Smite's player base is going back down. Its viewership is in the worst I've seen it in like 5 years. And the gameplay is as stagnant as it's ever been. You get Genjis, Bop, Glad Shield, and just run people down. That doesn't happen. How do you just run people down? Are you playing against fucking bots? Anyone with mobility can avoid your ult by jumping over a wall. Anyone with a stun or a silence can interrupt your 3. And then anyone with a true distance mobility has a longer mobility than you. So I don't know. And then if you're talking about the heal for your team, Onk. If there's anyone with heals, you build Onk, and it literally kills your teammates. If you are a healer and the other team has Onk, you kill your teammates. We've never had a meta in Smite where warriors weren't broken since season 2. Gilgan S? Yeah, what the fuck? Why wouldn't Gilgamesh be an S tier? Yeah, warriors were bad for 2 weeks. It wasn't even a meta. It was like a fucking dream. it was literally like, it's such a brief moment. I don't even know if it actually happened. Is Dominance a good item? It can work into some ADC builds, yeah. You see a lot of the pro players throw it into certain gods builds. Like Zatman rushed it the other day. He went first item instead of Transcendence. Hi-Rez is definitely focused on Smite. They have 500 employees, 300 of which only work on Smite. It doesn't work like that. It's not like, hey, you 30, no more Smite, on to this new game. You 50, no, they have people already hired working on the other games. That's not how it works. Their problem is Ajax or whoever is making the final decisions has just not made good decisions this year. He made last 4 years before that, he was making god tier. Like everything they were doing was solid. This year, they've just butchered it and thrown it away multiple times. Nah, Paragon was never good at any point in time. It had potential and then killed its own potential instantly with its first patches. Smite's been good for years, and the base of Smite is still god tier. They just haven't changed the game, and it's getting stale. I played Warframe. Not a Warframe gamer, bro. Hi-Rez gets input from pro players every day, and they get input from a lot of people all the time. There are reverting changes in Realm Morale, and it's actually enjoyable. Yes, they are reverting changes, but every game you play has like 60 bots out of the 80 people in the match. So you're just killing a bunch of literally AI bots. That's not fun. If that game drops, if they revert it, they actually drop it, and they're making constant changes, and the player base grows to remove those AI bots, that game will be a solid game. It was great when it was like where they're dropping it. It was a great game. They just, it took them 2 years or 3 years to redrop it. Why? What if fog gets put back in the jungle? What do you mean fog is in the... you mean like the little fog pools? No. Edro, thank you for the 12 months. Ali, thank you for the 20 months. PSNA, thank you for the 15 months. Mauler, thank you for the 31 months. Drain, thank you for the 35. Icy, thank you for the 32. Lean, thank you for the prime sub. The Realm graphics are ass. I mean, they're not great, but they're not the worst things in the world. I've seen worse. What I want for the new map in Conquest, wider map. Do not make it a shorter, wider map, and they need to change up the pathing. The pathing needs to be less direct from one lane to the next. No, the collab with Miskiv was a waste of time. It doesn't matter when you do it. It's a waste of time. When you pay a bunch of people to play your game, and those people don't keep playing your game after they pay them, it has no value. I mean, it's crazy to think that there was like just streamers. There was like, what, 80 streamers that tried the game a lot for the first time, and none of them are still playing the game. None of them. I don't know if you've noticed that. None of them, even the ones that were like, yeah, I'm still going to play this game. No, they got their money, they got their drops, and they dipskit. It was nice, like talking and playing with new people that were, you know, big content creators from other games and stuff. That was dope. But did it have any value for the game and the community? No, not even close. Like literally nothing. Nothing to gain. Nothing was gained. What's insane about Oleron? The builds that are viable for him right now. His sustain is cracked. His clear is really good. His 1v1 potential is good. His counter dive, meaning anyone jumping on him, his turn potential is there. Pretty much does it all. Pretty much does it all, dude. Plus, he's got crit built into his kit. Name a god that has crit built in their kit that was never like beast. Nemesis is literally the best assassin in Smite. All MOBAs are unappealing to new players. Any established game with a mass learning curve is unappealing to new players. That's literally how it works. Tarkov is extremely unappealing to new players. Every MOBA is unappealing to new players. Only games that aren't unappealing to new players are games that have no learning curve. Or they're brand new games, so everyone's new. If you don't play Conquest and Smite, you're not playing a MOBA. You're playing an arena fighter. Conquest is the only MOBA. That's what makes this game a MOBA. Otherwise, you're literally not playing a MOBA. League arguably has a larger learning curve than Smite. Because in League, everything isn't viable. In League, there's more than just item building. Same with fucking Dota. The way building and stuff works is extremely different. It's a massive, massive learning curve, where Smite is too, but you know, it's not as in depth. In Smite, you can play whatever you want and enjoy yourself. You build the same stuff on the same type of character over and over again. It's not, builds don't vary every 5 seconds to something brand new. The game has a learning curve, but it's much easier to learn. Oh, League is terrible to watch. Top-down MOBAs are dog shit to watch. It's literal trash. The graphics are ass. The game looks like shit. You can barely see what's going on. And you know that the people playing the game are just extremely knowledgeable and their mechanics are trash. That's why people that play those games have no skills in terms of aiming. Like, you put them on a shooter and it looks like a fucking turd trying to play a video game. What's up, Wraith? 75 months, you stinky. Heard on Reddit this guy was mean. Oh, I'm the most mean. I'm the meanest. There is no one worse than me in the whole world. In the whole damn world. Top-down MOBAs, aiming is not... Bro, don't even double check. You're trolling. You're trolling. Top-down MOBAs have the least aim of all shit ever. Point and click. Free auto attacks. Half of your abilities don't need to actually be aimed. They're also just point and click. And when you are pointing and clicking, it comes down to more time than it is aim. Thank you, Snookum, for the 10 gifted. You're fucking awesome. Thank you, thank you. I've played countless hours of top-down MOBAs, bro. I know exactly how they work. You're literally comparing CS to aiming, which is just dumb as fuck. That's not how it works. CS in top-down MOBAs is point and click. It's timing. It's not aiming. Yes, there are some skill shots in League. In Smite, everything is skill shots. There's like 10 abilities that aren't skill shots. So to compare the two in terms of aim is just not it. Mechanically, when mechanics are how skilled you are at aiming, they are not comparable. It is massively harder to play Smite than it is to play that game at a mechanical level. That game requires insane amounts of knowledge and decision making, where Smite's decision making is micro as fuck. I know I'm not wrong. I've played all these games at a high level. I haven't played League at a high level. I've played top-down MOBAs at a high level. Played Smite at a high level. I played shooters at a high level. I'm not wrong. The jungle actually matters in Smite. You're being very specific about something when we're talking about skills, mechanical skills. League is all macro. You're spot on. Yeah, Smite, you can be the worst decision-making player of all time and still be very good at the game. Not be the best, not be grandmaster pro player. You'll still be good at the game. Bro, there is a comparison to be made between Smite and League. League is literally point and click for like 80% of the game. It is not skill shots for 90% of the game like Smite. But in League, your decision making at every aspect is infinitely more valuable than in Smite. Your strategy is infinitely more valuable in League than it is in Smite. The thing is, a lot of people don't understand mechanics. Like, Dips is arguing mechanics. He's like, imagine blind firing a Jin ult into the darkness and killing somebody. That's not a mechanic. What do you, like, what? That's not a skill. You're talking about RNG and knowledge of where somebody should be. That's not an aiming aspect. Try hitting a Jin assault into the darkness with your eyes closed. No one said there are no skill shots. Nobody said that. Said there are micro amounts of skill shots compared to Smite. The aim in Smite is way more necessary, and a high level of actual pure, fucking aiming is way more necessary than in League. League is strategy, knowledge, decision making, fucking CS, and mouse clicks. It makes no sense to even argue it, because just statistically, number wise, you're incorrect if you're arguing against it, because every single auto in Smite is a skill shot. Every single auto. CS in Smite is less important because you can't deny creeps, like in Dota and shit. And last hitting isn't as much, is only a little bit of extra gold, where in your top down MOBAs you're getting all your gold from last hitting. I already played games. I just did a tier list. Smite is ass right now in terms of playing. Tarkov's been rough. I'm just ready for super people to come out. Surely Cupid B+ tier is troll? Fuck no. You can't early pick Cupid, which means it has to be situational and based on the enemy team's picks. Late picking Cupid can be god tier. Early picking Cupid will lose you the game every time. Nah, Tarkov's fun. You're just getting shit on all the time. Have I ever played Apex or Valorant? Yes, I have. Peep your tat. No, send it to me on Discord. I'll look it up. Whenever you want me to see something, send me a message. If you're in my Discord, you can right click on my name on the right and send it. Ooh, all right. I like the colors. That yellow kind of like kills it. Usually yellow on white skin and the tattoo looks like dog shit, but it pulls it all out. It pulls the red and the green and the black. It pulls the black out perfectly. That shit's nuts. I like that. Hercules is dog shit, bro. Have I ever played Hunt Shutdown? No. I've looked it up. People ask me that like once a week. I'm just not interested in that game. Not my kind of game. How long did it take my sleeve to heal? Different parts took longer. Most of it was like in terms of it just being fully healed, nothing going on, like a week, like 6 days. Dips, you're fine. It's okay to have an opinion and us not agree with it. Destiny 2 is dog shit. I'm not playing Destiny 2, bro. Not again. Never again. Rogue tried to get me to play that every day for like months. Months and months and months.